creatures, it's Em and welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, welcome. My name's Em, I'm a former zookeeper and I'm an animal educator. If you haven't already, remember to hit that subscribe button down below, become part of the creature crew, and also hit that notification bell down in the corner there so you don't miss a single upload. I'm also a published author. You can find my book, which is behind me on the shelf, Animal Kind, down in the Amazon link below in the description box, as well as links to my coloring book as well as my merch store. So if you wanted to support the channel, that's another way you can do that. What about you guys? What animals would you choose not to keep and why? Share your comments down in the comment section below. This list is my list. As animal people, we all have different animals, different species and taxa that resonate with us and those which don't. As well as, very importantly, animals which just don't fit in with our lifestyle. That's also a huge consideration. So I'm going to be talking to you about these particular animals and why I personally wouldn't choose to keep them. The first animal on my list today, which I would choose not to keep as a pet, is the domestic cat. I've actually kept a cat in the past. She was a beautiful stray. I actually brought her home. She had no microchip. Her name was Mew Mew, and I called her that because she had no meow. She was so silent, and I just thought, oh, well, I guess I can do the meowing for her. So like, Mew Mew, come here. And then she ended up being really, really loud and chatty. I don't know, maybe cat just had a tongue while she was settling in. I just wanted to make that joke. But I actually developed very severe allergies to her, and to this day I have severe cat allergies to the point where if there's a cat in a house, I just can't breathe. I have to use my inhaler. So sadly, I ended up having to rehome Mew Mew because I had such bad allergies that my eyes were puffed over and they would even like scale up from the dryness, and I just couldn't breathe the whole time. I kept on having to go back to my GP in England and getting more and more Ventolin just because I wanted to be able to breathe, and that was just not viable for me as an option for a long-term pet. So I kind of got her used to being around people, I got her litter trained, and then I gave her to somebody else. I'm not in contact with them. I don't know how she's doing now, but she was a great cat. So Mew Mew, if you're still around, I love you and I'm sorry I had to give you away, but I couldn't breathe and I was dying. Animal number 2 on my list is horses. And this is so sad to me because I love horses, but again, I am massively allergic to horses. I'm allergic to horses, but randomly I'm not allergic to donkeys, which is just, I don't understand my own allergies, but I do have a lot of allergies, and horses for me are just some of the worst. They're up there with my cat allergies. So for me, horses is just, again, due to my allergies, a no-go, but also the time and expense that goes into keeping a horse and keeping a horse well. I love horses, especially Shire horses. They're my favorites, and Belgian draft horses. I love them. Like all those really stocky breeds of horses that are sort of utility breeds. Love them so much. It's too much for me. It's like a whole lifestyle change that I would need, and that just wouldn't be for me. I have enjoyed riding in the past, and I have overestimated my riding abilities in the past as well. I'm literally the kind of person who literally just jumps on and goes without ever having a lesson, which is not the best for myself and not the best for the horse, as I eventually found out because the horse was not happy with me. But we figured it out. So I'm too stubborn for a horse as well. Like, I would not have the time to dedicate to learning the discipline and the art of riding. And horses don't like me. Every donkey I've ever met likes me. Horses don't like me that much. I have no idea why. Maybe it's an energy thing. And it's not like I'm reaching in their blind spot to pet them. Like, I'm really nice around horses. They don't like me. They think I'm a little bit sus. So yes, I won't be keeping any horses. Kudos to those who do and who can. Like, that's amazing. I take my hat off to you. At least I would if I were wearing a hat.
I've made my list and I'm checking it twice. Not gonna keep any cats or mice. Oh, okay.
The next animal that I would never want to keep as a pet are raccoons. Raccoons. Okay, now not everyone really considers raccoons as a pet, which honestly is a pretty good thing. They can legally be kept as pets in some parts of the world and in some states, and if you have the right setup for them and you understand what you're getting into, they can make decent pets. It takes a certain kind of owner and a certain kind of dedication, but for me, having worked with raccoons very extensively, I can confidently say I have never known a single raccoon to reach sexual maturity and to maintain the sweet disposition they have as kits. They switch, and when I say they switch, I mean they can just be straight up nasty. And for me, it's too much of a liability. So I really want to be able to respect the animals that I have. I don't mind animals which have a bit of an attitude. I mean, I have Dobby, and I've worked with all kinds of very, very temperamental animals in the past. Raccoons and Procyonids in general are just a little bit too, like, they're just a bit cuckoo for me. Like, they literally have crazy eyes, and that's great. It suits them as animals. I respect them as animals. I love trash pandas. Who doesn't? But as far as keeping them as pets, for me, it is just not worth the amount of stress that raccoons can give. They also need a lot of space. When they bite, oh my god, their bite, it hurts a lot. I've been bitten by raccoons, I've been bitten by coati, very similar creatures in many ways, and they're just bad bites. Bad bites. So yes, for me, raccoons are just a no-go. No thank you. Love them as animals, love them as pets. When other people keep them and keep them well, not for me. Too much time, too much of a headache. Not for me. This one is off the cuff because I didn't think of them before, but I'm thinking of them now. My next animal that I would never again keep as pets, I'll come back onto that, are meerkats. Now, in the USA, meerkats are not really a very common pet. I don't think I know anybody in the USA actually who does keep meerkats as pets aside from collections, like living collections and zoos. However, in the UK, they are fairly easy to find as pets, and there was this huge marketing campaign by an insurance company called Compare the Market, and they used meerkats as in their slogan, like compare the market, compare the meerkat. If you're watching from the UK, you'll know what I mean. And this caused an explosion of people so excited about keeping reptiles, about keeping meerkats as pets. Meerkats, oh my goodness. Okay, I have raised litters and litters and litters of meerkats. Not for myself, I was doing this for an animal education company that I worked with, and we would breed and raise our own stock, get hands-on with them from young, and then that way they'd be a lot more tame when going out to meet people. So I was essentially a surrogate mother for countless litters of meerkats, and they are adorable, lovely, sweet animals. And then they switch again, just like raccoons. And when they do bite, oh my goodness, again, it's awful. I've had a meerkat called Tallulah. I'll never forget her. Tallulah, I hated her. She hated me, but she ran up my leg and bit onto the inner thigh, right at the top of my inner thigh, and just like hung on, and it was awful. Meerkats are like ferrets, but less slinky, less fun, and just like on a cocktail of different mind and body altering substances. They are peculiar creatures, amazing in the wild, wonderful animals, so interesting, but really not good as pets in my opinion, like really, really not good. So I love meerkats, respect meerkats, would not want to keep meerkats, and I would not recommend meerkats as pets. The next animal that I would not keep as a pet is any kind of primate. When it comes to primates, they are just an animal that I would never want in my living space ever. It kills me, really kills me when I see people investing in buying, say, a capuchin or a capuchin monkey, for example, and not realizing how much work is going to have to go into that little primate to make sure that they are happy and healthy, stimulated, and also not aggressive. And there are so many species of monkey. I'm just gonna say monkey because that's like a very general term when people think of like a pet primate. There are so many different species that people like to keep that have been portrayed in popular media, and I just would not recommend ever. Honestly, it's one of those animals where if you're not keeping them in family groups, if they're not in a huge outdoor enclosure somewhere in like a really fantastic zoo, they will be miserable. They will act up, and that acting up will make you miserable as well. With the exception, I do know a couple of people who do keep primates as pets, or monkeys as pets. I hate using that term, it's so general, but who do keep monkeys as pets, and they do it well, but they don't have kids, and their monkeys are their entire lives. Like literally everywhere they go, they take their monkeys with them. So it can be done, but I'm saying it takes a very special individual to dedicate literally every waking moment to these animals. So for me, it's too much, and I just don't click with primates. I've worked with lemurs in the past, ring-tailed lemurs, and they were great. I love them, but again, not as pets. So for me, any kind of primate, you couldn't pay me to keep any kind of primate. Not for me. No, thank you. Next up on animals that I would not keep, any kind of cockatoo. Cockatoos, I love. I have worked with them. I've worked with umbrella cockatoos, sulfur-crested cockatoos, and especially with galahs. Without fail, of any bird I've ever, well, I shouldn't say bird, of any parrot, no, just bird in general, of any bird I have ever worked with, cockatoos are just next level crazy psychos. They are literally feathered 2-year-olds that do not grow up, who understand the word no and just don't care, and they are loud, so loud, and they are so intelligent, and there are plenty of great owner-cockatoo relationships out there. But speaking of cockatoo owner relationships, cockatoos I found like to bond very closely with one person or like one gender, and for me it's just too much of a headache to deal with. And every single cockatoo I've ever known has had their one person that they really attach to, and it's heartbreaking when you can't be there for them. So for me, if I were ever going to keep a parrot species, it would most likely be an eclectus, because eclectus are much happier to be around lots of different kinds of people.
Ooh! Ooh, good boy! Ooh! So what you say to a pretty lady, you say hi.
Woo!
Say, ooh, boy! Woo woo! Good boy! Shake it, shake it, shake it. Good boy! Boy, where's your foot? Shake it, shake it, shake it. Good boy! Good boy. I'm just getting him used to the feel at the moment.
Absolutely fine.
Ready? Good boy, peekaboo. Very nice.
Eclectus are much happier to be around lots of different kinds of people, as opposed to cockatoos who are like, I want my one person and my one person only, and I will hate and bite everybody else, or I will just pluck myself until I'm naked. So that's how I feel about cockatoos. That's how I really feel about cockatoos. They can make good pets, but again, it's a massive sacrifice to your time and your mental health if you don't have the ability to give them what they want. Like, you can literally find yourself tearing your hair out over a cockatoo that you just don't understand. So for me, it's too much. They're great to work with. I've loved working with them. They are fascinating animals, but they're too much cray-cray for me. So no cockatoos for me. Next up is a very general term I'm going to be using for animals, but I would generally not want to keep salt water tanks. I have tried keeping salt water tanks in the past, and honestly, I'm not the best at it. Like, the minute details you have to pay attention to with the nitrates and the nitrites and the filtration systems and understanding your salinity levels, for me it is just, it's too much. And for me, anytime I've kept a saltwater tank, when I've been on my game, it's great, but when I'm not on my game with it, if life gets busy, I feel like the tank suffers. And that's why I actually gave away my old saltwater tanks, which I set up like 2 years ago now, because it was just too much for me. So I feel like animal keepers have different levels of what they find to be manageable and chores. Like some people would love to do water changes and they find it therapeutic. I hated doing water changes. To me, it's not therapeutic. I just got angry the whole time. Whereas other people wouldn't want to spend, you know, several hours a day playing with ferrets. I will do that. To me, it's not a chore, because like I can vibe with ferrets. We have very similar energy. Tanks, for me, I love looking at them. I respect very ferociously people who can keep saltwater tanks, or tanks in general, but for me it's just, it doesn't resonate with me. There's only really 1 or 2 aquatic species that I would consider keeping, but neither are saltwater, and neither are particularly delicate. So for me, again, just saltwater tanks. Love to look at them, would not want to be in charge of them again. So no saltwater tanks for me. The next animal that I would not want to keep is any kind of pig. Now, I like pigs a lot. I like pigs to the point that even though I'm not vegetarian, I personally just choose not to eat them. But I would not keep them as a pet. I feel like they would limit my lifestyle. I feel like I get everything I need in terms of companionship, size for cuddling, and intelligence from my dog. And I feel like a pig would be redundant in my life. And I also feel like pigs just would draw too much attention to me when I'm outside walking them. I feel like they become a bit of a gimmick for me, so I would rather stick to having a dog. I feel like if I were not able to have a dog, I might consider a pig. Like if I had awful dog allergies and was not allergic to pigs, maybe as a substitute dog I might have a pig. But for me, again, pigs in general, love them, but they're just, to me, I don't see them and think like indoor pet. Typically the ones that people keep as pets, like potbelly pigs, and they say, oh, they're gonna stay, you know, kind of this small, or they're only gonna get this big based on the parents. It's usually a bunch of lies, and they tend to get a lot bigger, but that's the selling point. You want like a cute little pig in your house that's gonna be like it's really cute, and then they grow and then you have no space for them. So for me, I would not want to deal with the stress of not knowing how big the pig is gonna get. So yes, for me, pigs just don't interest me enough to keep, but I do like pigs. Piggies are really, really adorable. And finally, the last animal that I would not consider keeping as a pet, again, some of you might think this is a bit of an awkward pet anyway, but I would not keep foxes. I have friends that keep them really well and they are very, very happy, but for me, they are too much work. I worked with red foxes, I've worked with cinnamon foxes, I've worked with Corsac foxes, fennec foxes, and silver foxes as well, or blue foxes. And for me, the smell in a house is too much, even when compared to ferrets, and like, ferrets smell. Foxes smell worse. And I'm not trying to bring negative attention to social media influencers who do have foxes, because for the most part, the foxes that I've seen being cared for, apart from that one girl who had like a vegan fox a long time ago, which was not me. People kept on thinking that was me. That was not me. I do not have a fox, and if I did, it wouldn't be a vegan fox. But generally speaking, a lot of the people who I do see on social media who keep foxes do so very, very well, and their foxes are thriving. But for me, I would have a moral dilemma that in keeping a fox, because they're quite easy to romanticize and they're quite easy to get hold of as well, I feel like I would have a moral issue in thinking that I am encouraging people to get an animal that I know is so unsuitable for so many people. So for those reasons, I would not keep foxes, but I do love foxes. They are totally one of my soul animals that I really just resonate with, like foxes, wolves, any kind of weasel, snakes, certain kinds of bird. really resonate with me. I kind of feel like we're going to need animals that I would consider keeping in the future, because that is also an interesting list. But what did you feel about today's video? Do you agree with my list? Do you keep any of the animals on my list and disagree with some of the points that I've made about how difficult they are to keep? Let me know. Leave a comment in the comment box below. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I will see you in another video soon. Bye. Seriously, raccoons and meerkats, don't do it.